It is the most simple yet most controversial thing that that I share with people, I think, because you know, I'm that person. I'm gonna love on you, but I'm also gonna hit you between the eyes when I need to. And the reality is, you are in charge of your calendar. Like, we walk around talking about how busy we are, how overwhelmed we are, how frustrated we are. You know who put that stuff on the calendar?
Right. Welcome to Impostrix Podcast Season 4. My name is Whitney and I am your host. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I am excited to jump into it. Impostrix Podcast validates professionals of color navigating imposter experiences and racial toxicity within their careers. And this season, we are focusing exclusively on pouring into Black women. How can we take care of the Black women in our lives? If we are a Black woman, how can we pour into ourselves? How can we receive the pour from others? So this episode is going to be about that and all the episodes within this season. So sit back, get your listening ears on. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Impostrix Podcast. My name is Whitney Lee. I am your host. I am here today with Coach Danni D. And I've actually been looking forward to this specific conversation since you and I initially talked a couple of months ago now, because we're talking about managing our time and calendaring. And that is something that I really, really struggle to do. When I tell you, we've recorded maybe 9 episodes for the season thus far, and in probably half of them, I'm telling people, oh my gosh, yes, calendars. I need to get into the calendar. I'm talking with Coach Danni D later in this season. We're going to talk about calendaring because for me, one of the ways that I fail to pour into myself is by giving everybody else all the white space in my calendar and giving myself none of it. So I am looking forward to learning from you and hearing from you, Coach Danni D. What are ways that I can better manage my calendar so that I can build in this time for myself while not feeling like I'm taking away from my productivity with my business because I got to make money. So that being said, welcome to the show, Coach Danni D.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm excited. I'm excited. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So I'm so excited to be here.
Good, good. So, can you please introduce yourself, telling me a little bit about you and your identities and the perspectives that you're bringing to this conversation?
Okay, so I am Coach Danni D. My formal name is Danielle DeTige, my government name. Um, and I am a work with ease coach. So how I got there, a lot of people hear work with ease and they think, I'm just, sitting around taking naps. I do take naps throughout the day. But but how I got there is kind of the same way we all get there. I was wife, mother, caregiver, doing all the things, full-time job and trying to start up a business. And I just reached a point where it was just like something has to give. Something absolutely has to give. It was just too much. And I'm very, I've always been very close with my family, but, just starting to realize that I'm getting resentful of people. I'm
Mm,
starting to, get um frustrated, because I'm just carrying too much. And like you said, I didn't have that white space on my calendar. And the first thing I was doing was removing me when there was no time, right? So it's like, oh well, I'll skip the thing that I need to do so that I can do something for somebody else. So um about me, like, so I'm a wife of 20 years, married my high school sweetheart. We have a brilliant 18-year-old. He's away at college right now. I am a dog mom, so my pup is, he has a bed in here he likes to sit in on
mm,
podcasts. So he is laying there listening, as we and he is what I call my self-care manager. So he is the one that says, okay, you know what? You've been working too long and I'm about to flip your laptop over. So we're not doing this anymore. So he
mm.
does help in the, calendar detox process.
Yeah. Mm. What kind of dog is he?
He is a oh goodness. Uh he's a mix between like a pit and a cocker spaniel. So he's like
Oh,
spry.
I
Yes.
didn't think you were gonna say that.
Yes, yes. So he's like, if you look at him in a certain way, you can see it. You know what I'm saying? But like for the
Mhm.
most part, he's just like this little spry. Like he's 3 years old, but he still thinks he's a puppy.
Mhm.
And
That's
so he
cute.
just runs around like that. And then he's got like a cow print to him. So he's like black and white. And he looks like, he's giving all the Chick-fil-A.
Mm. We just got a, Schnauzer puppy,
Okay.
and, her name is Nala. She is amazing, and I can relate with the self-care manager because they need Schnauzers in particular are very active, they need a lot of exercise. My husband and I are both working from home, and so what that means is periodically throughout the day, we are going outside for, like, half an hour at a time to do whatever it is, walk her or fetch. Somehow she's a puppy, but she came to us knowing how to fetch.
Right.
And that is so cool because I've never had a dog who can fetch. And she will fetch anything, whether it's a tennis ball, a soccer ball, a stick.
Wow.
And so we have a lot of fun with her. And that has been a really cool day to help break up a really cool thing to help break up my day. What I started doing about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, is actually putting lunch into my calendar. I only put
Mm.
30 minutes of lunch into my calendar because I know me, and taking a full hour is something that I'm probably not gonna do unless I'm going out somewhere, going to Ross or whatever. So anyways, 30 minutes, I make myself leave my desk, eat something for 30 minutes, and, she has become my lunch routine.
Yes.
Go on a walk with Nala or go outside with Nala, and then I might eat my lunch or I might bring it back to my computer. Um, so I can definitely relate to that. So, I wanna talk about calendaring. This seems like such a nerdy like, it kinda feels nerdy, like I should be with a calendar and, like, 20 different colors of fancy gel pens. Um, and maybe I'll do that.
You're speaking my love language.
Yeah. But I wanna talk to you, like, how did we get here? How did you get here to where one of the tools that you love talking about and that you work with your clients on is simply managing our time?
So, unfortunately, I had to hit rock bottom to get here, and so that's why, it's so important to me to teach it to other people because I don't want to watch anybody I love go through that part, right?
Mhm,
Um, I had, my grandmother raised me. I was very, very close with my grandmother, and she very suddenly and very, rapidly in some ways, um, became ill.
mhm,
So she was, falling, all this stuff was happening, and we were like, what's going on? She wouldn't go to the doctor, very old school. She hadn't been to the doctor since the last time she had a child, which, was very, very many years ago. And in that process, she went to my son finally convinced her to go, and she had congestive heart failure and had been having it for a very long time. And in that process of grief on top of everything else that was going on, it just became a situation where it was um it was just, challenging. It became a situation where it was like, we were everything started to crash down on me, and I realized like I can't maintain this. And then once she passed, the grieving process, all of that happened. And I came out the other side just really feeling like, you know what, I can't keep going like this. And a lot of stuff that I had kind of let fall by the wayside in the process, I realized wasn't that important anymore. So, in realizing that it wasn't important, I ended up being able to just start deciding what actually is in alignment with where I want to go. And that's kind of what I did moving forward in my life. And
So let's pause a minute and just get real. You do everything for everybody. But have you taken a moment to care for future you? Getting your affairs in order isn't just about wills or trusts. It's about peace of mind for you and love for those that you leave behind. Ideally, we should all have an estate plan. And if you're in Georgia, Wills for the People can help you out. But if you're not ready yet to create your will or trust, there's something that you can do that will go a long way in helping the future you. And that is to get organized. The I Plan for This Life Organizer for when it's needed is a workbook designed to help you organize your life with clarity and ease, making it so that if someone needs to care for you or for your affairs because you're not able to, they have all of the information that they need. No stress, no confusion, just a record made by you, about you. Visit willsforthepeoplega.com to get your copy, because you deserve to be prepared and to have your loved ones prepared. Again, that's willsforthepeoplega.com and click on the workbook tab. Back to the show. So, what was happening with you? You said that you hit rock bottom, and I know this stuff was going on with your grandmother, but like what was that feeling like for you? How did you know that like now I need to change something and I need to figure out like what that means?
so I think two things were going on with me at the same time. So in one respect, I just stopped caring about everything else. Like as
Mm,
far as like, this was like, my person, like, and she
mm,
is going through something. And I like called my job and was like, my grandmother's in the hospital. I'm not coming in. I don't remember when the next time I talked to those people, because I that was not important anymore. Like that
mhm,
didn't matter to me. So I was trying to, take care of her. And I also was trying to keep things as normal as possible for my son
mm,
because, he was like 10 at the time, and I didn't want things to be really weird for him. And then him and my grandmother were like super close. So
mm,
it was like, he couldn't come to the hospital. It just was a weird world. And so I was trying to maintain those two things. Those two things were the only things that mattered to me at the time. When she came out of the hospital, I was cooking for her every day because she had a special diet and all of this different stuff. And so I distinctly remember it was one day I was supposed to get up and start fixing, whatever I was making for her for the following day. And I was laying on the sofa and I'm looking at the clock. And you know how we have that thing where it's like, oh, I don't know why we have to do something at the hour or the half an hour. I don't know what that's about. But 6 o'clock was approaching and I just was not moving. 6:30 came and I just could not bring myself to move. And I think around 7 is when my husband just I could hear him start moving in the kitchen. And I think he just started whatever it was I was supposed to be doing. And so I just felt the weight of everything in that moment.
mm,
Like just, the reality is like one of my former coworkers said this to me one time. She said that, because of everything that we carry, especially as Black women, we don't get the opportunity to grieve.
yeah.
We're not afforded the opportunity to grieve. People who are in, situations of wealth or whatever it is, they can take the month off or do, they have those options. And I think that that's really what it boiled down to was I was in a state where I could not do any more,
Mm,
but I had so much to do. And I realized like just that feeling of I never had that feeling of I don't even care if I don't even care if this job is still there when I go back. And it wasn't because my bills was paid. It didn't matter.
yeah.
And so that's when I realized that I need to focus on what matters. And yes, I need to have an income, but it doesn't have to be in an environment that I'm not happy in. It doesn't have to be something that's not fulfilling me. I can focus on what matters. And I've always been the type of person that I believe that if I focus on something, it's going to happen.
Mhm.
The problem is that we don't focus on it.
Mhm.
We believe that this is just how it's supposed to be. It's going to be, we just do all of this and then we die. Like that's how life is supposed to go. And it only goes that way because we have yielded to it. We have to switch it up and really, like, for me, it was like, oh, wait, I could not do this stuff. Like, and it be okay.
Right, right. I think it must have been you who said to me a couple of months ago that if we don't focus on self-care, then we won't do the self-care. Or you
Yeah.
might not use the word like self-care, but it's like balance. You use the word balance, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and that hit me because for me, it's true. Like, I have to it's more than setting an intention. I'll use the gym as an example. I do not go to the gym. I have a gym membership. I pay $40 a month. I don't remember the last time that I've gone. I can't even get myself there to cancel the membership, okay?
I
So
feel you.
but it's more like when I decided to get a membership, it was more than just thinking it and having the intention. I also needed to put it on my calendar. I also needed to set out my gym shoes. I also needed to set my alarm at a specific time during the day. I also needed to start my day a little later if I was going to go in the morning because I knew I would need to check. All of these things needed to happen. And that's how I plan for other things in my life. That's how I plan for this podcast recording. These are the things that I need to do. This is the equipment that I need. It is in my calendar. These are the reminders. Um, and I found that I have to do that same thing with everything in my life that doesn't involve basically bringing money. Like, if there is something that does not
Yes.
have a financial value to it, then it doesn't end up in my calendar, and it is not it's kind of like, this could happen that day, but it also very well could not happen that day.
Right.
And so and I think that was what led me to put lunch on my calendar, because that was something that I could manage, that I could have control over. 30 minutes is not a lot of time in the day. Like, it's not such a big chunk that it's like, how am I gonna make time to eat something away from my desk? Um, and so something that you said reminded me of that moment. Um, and the other thing that you said, which is in one of the materials that you had sent me, which hopefully we can make available to the listeners, but it is this notion of we are in charge of our own calendars. I
Absolutely.
Simple. This is very simple. This is not
You're saying that, but
right, right. Like, nobody has to tell us this, you
it is
know?
the most simple yet most controversial thing that I share with people, I think, because you know I'm that person. I'm gonna love on you, but I'm also gonna hit you between the eyes when I need to. And the reality is, you are in charge of your calendar. Like, we walk around talking about how busy we are, how overwhelmed we are, how frustrated we are. You know who put that stuff on the calendar?
Right.
I'm
It
gonna
was
tell
me
you, it
because
was
I don't got an assistant like that.
no, it was you. It was you. Even if you had an assistant, you give her the parameters and the authority, right? To say what can go where, when, and why. So it's still you.
Mhm,
It doesn't matter. It's still you. You
mhm.
still have that ability, and I know a lot of us may be in a job or something like that where you have other requirements, but you still, even in that, have the ability to, that's why they have on those Outlook things required, I forget what the look. I haven't worked a somebody else's job in a very long time, but um Everybody not required for the meeting. You might have been invited to the meeting. That don't mean you have to go. If it's obstructing, if you are balancing yourself out, and balance is one of those words that people, I get all the time. I went to a women's conference, and this lady from the stage just like made this very cynical comment about balance. And again, it's your choices.
Mm.
It's what you choose. You're not balanced because you're not choosing to focus on those other areas. So
Mhm.
if I only put on the calendar my book of business, then that's all that's going to be happening in my life is my book of business. So one of the things that I love to do, and I do this quarterly, and sometimes I'll do this when I just feel overwhelmed. I go through my calendar and I identify the spaces where I need to insert time for myself.
Mm.
So similar to how
Mhm.
you said about your lunch,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna challenge you on trying to get this hour in there, but we gonna we gonna get there.
It's a
But
start. It's a
it's a
start.
start. It's a start, and that's what you have to do is just start. Like so similar to that, I look at my calendar like um at this time of like recording, we're about to have the Super Bowl here in New Orleans.
Mm.
I have a balloon decor business. That's my other business.
Mm.
And so right now, I already had a couple of big jobs, and then I have other people that are like reaching out right now saying, "Oh, can you do this thing for me on this day?" And I'm like looking at I'm like, "Okay, I could do this one, can't do that one." Making those decisions, but at the same time that I'm making those decisions, I know that this next week is going to be heavy as
Mhm.
far as workload. So you know what the immediate next thing I have to do when I see my calendar filling up is find a spot where I'm like, okay, so this day I'm off, or these 2 days I'm off, so that I can balance that out, so that I'm not just going from extremely busy to extremely busy.
Yeah.
So it's being mindful of that. It's not always gonna be, that your calendar is light, but even in those heavy moments, being mindful, like, okay, I'm gonna go hard for this week, and then don't talk to me. Like, no
Yeah.
one can
Yeah.
speak to me.
And I appreciate this because I have in the past month gone from I'm protecting my calendar, I'm protecting my time, I'm not overextending myself. So some of the things that I've done is after I have so many things to do on my calendar, for personal or work, I will just put full at the top and the whole thing, because okay, how I calendar is I use Calendly.
Okay.
I've got, like, a cajillion Calendly events because I have a cajillion projects, so people from all sorts of with all different needs can schedule onto my calendar. And I've time blocked it so that podcast projects only happen during specific times during the week, and signing meetings for wills and trusts only happen at other certain times during the week. But I am transitioning to a different style of calendaring. I don't need to go into that. So, where I was putting full at the top of my calendar and marking it off so that nobody else can put anything in there, I am no longer doing that just for the time being, which means that while I implement this new time blocking and I'm switching around my calendar, I'm having back to back to back to back to back meetings. And
Mm-mm.
it is too much. It's too much. It's for a limited amount of time, but it's too much. And so, what I have done though is gone through and for this quarter indicated in my calendar which days I'm just off.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
um, Valentine's Day, for example, I don't really, Valentine's Day is fine. I know that I like chocolate on Valentine's Day. Like I know that I might not feel like working. It'll be after this 2 weeks of, crazy meetings. My husband's birthday is one. He doesn't care about his birthday, but maybe he'll wanna go travel somewhere for the long
Right.
weekend because By the time his birthday comes around, it's finally back up to 75 degrees, you know? And so I have done that, but I've also felt like an amount of guilt for my like self. I don't know if this makes sense, but like because I rolled back
Mhm.
my boundary in order to accomplish this thing, which means that I'm going to be busy for this period of time, but also keeping in mind that it's not going to be forever, that I can still go back to putting full on my calendar. So like I have done that now, because the transition is it's done. Um, but it's like when I see myself overextending, I start to feel myself saying, "Okay, Whitney, we're not doing that anymore. Like we're done with that. When are you gonna have lunch?"
And that's the important thing. I think that that's the important thing is to turn that voice on. Because what I'll tell you is this, it is never it's not it's like kind of like if somebody's an alcoholic, they're alcoholic, like you could stop drinking, but that you still, it
Mhm,
never goes away, in the sense of the world is always going to try to make you over committed.
mhm,
That is not going to go away. And especially if you are, creative and you got project, it's easy to get caught up, but it's turning on that voice that says, hold up now. It's turning on because even with this, like a lot of stuff has been happening fast over the last week or so, right? Because in my mind, again, I already had a couple of big jobs that were confirmed and I was good. And so, but a lot of these people are repeat customers. So I'm like, okay, let me start to see how I can accommodate you. But even in that, being mindful of what's this going to look like in practice? Like, as far as it sounds good when the revenue is coming in, but then when I actually have to sit there and do the work, what does this look like? Am I setting myself up for, burnout? But then also that voice again that says, you know what? After this is over, you need to make space and time for yourself. Like of course this is unusual because the Super Bowl, but
mhm.
May is a huge
Mm, yeah.
season for my balloon business, and I know that, and I learned from experience what that looks like. And so I know there's this one event that I do that is like very labor intensive. There's another like huge university that graduates on that same day, and I always get orders, a request for that day. I will not take anything on that day. I did it one time and I was just like, I'm like, the person that showed up for that client, after I had been outside, setting up all this stuff for the bigger event, the person that showed up for the small event, I hope that how I felt on the inside did not show on the
Well,
outside.
right, right, because that's the other thing. Like when we are overextending ourselves, we are not showing up our best selves, not
No.
only for other business, but for our family members, for the people that actually matter.
Right, right. Because after you do all of that stuff and you sitting there, you just aggravated, and you don't have the capacity to be present.
Right.
And I was telling somebody yesterday, like, I say this all the time, no is the best form of customer service.
Mm,
And that's like you said, in your business or your personal life, no is the best form of customer service, because when I say no, when I'm supposed to say no, I can show up as my best self.
yeah.
And even to speak to that guilt that she's like, I flexed on my boundary and I
Mhm.
feel a way about it. To speak to that guilt, I'm going to say this: as long as you still always have that voice in your head that's regulating, then you can start to ease the guilt a little bit. Like, cuz I know what you're saying, cuz I kind of feel
Mhm.
that way right now. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't signed up for
Mm. Mhm.
all the things, right?" But even in doing it, I was still in the back of my mind kind of calculating and like, okay, I can schedule myself like this. I can, basically I can make this work. with my scheduling, but I know that I can't schedule anything else. So like you said about your Calendly, I blocked off even before adding some of these last events, I blocked off next week from scheduling, from, people being able to schedule me.
Right, right,
Because I'm like, I'm not gonna be in any shape or form that you gonna want to sit and
right,
have a meaningful conversation with me. So let me just block this off right now, focus on getting this done, and then knowing I'm gonna take a break and then I'll be back to regularly scheduled program. So
right.
it's really we can't always control when that influx comes in, but we can control how we manage ourselves in the influx.
Right. One of the other things that I've learned recently is around allowing myself extra time to do the things that I'm doing
Mm,
because that messes me up too much where I think I'm going to be done with something in an hour, but it takes 3 hours and now I'm 2 hours behind. So giving myself more time than I think is necessary. But also, a big one is being okay with scheduling people a couple of weeks out.
mhm,
I am someone who and it's probably some of this, like, instant gratification kind of life that we live now, where if I wanna do something, then I wanna do it, like, today or tomorrow. I
mhm.
don't wanna schedule if I'm scheduling a vet appointment, I would prefer it be tomorrow, not next week, or, I and it almost feels rude to schedule somebody 2 weeks out or to not have availability when they want it. And so it's been an exercise for me to just be okay with my calendar not being open. I don't have any appointments for you next week. That sucks. It does. I'm sorry, but I don't.
But all right, I'm gonna challenge you there, and this is something I had to learn. So first of all, neither one of us are doctors, so nobody gonna die if we don't get
Nobody's
to
gonna
us.
die.
Nobody's gonna die. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. When I used to do site visits with clients, I go and I meet the client. We go and do, we look at the space, we have a conversation, and instinctively I'll say, "Oh, I'll go back to the office and work on this proposal and get you something by the end of the day." I'm not going to get like first of all, my ADHD does not allow me to transition in that way.
Mhm.
So, me being out and being social and me sitting down and doing a a task that requires me to focus, that's not the same person. Like we not the same person. So that's not gonna happen. But the thing that always came back out of that person's mouth as a response was, "Oh, well, it's Friday afternoon. I'm not going to look at it until Monday." Or, "As long as you get me something before next week, I'm okay." So I created this like urgency,
Mhm.
this false urgency that did not exist. And so now I'll say, like, I actually got to the point where, again, because of the whole transition thing, I typically work on proposals on Tuesday. I put things in a
Mm.
place, right?
Okay. Mhm.
So, sometimes, if something comes up, if it's more urgent or, whatever, or if I have time, I'll do it before then. But my website says I work on Tuesday. Everything is pointing to Tuesday. So that's what I say out loud to people now as well. Like if I finish a site visit, "Oh, well, I typically work on proposals on Tuesday. If I have time, I'll get it to you before then." I haven't had a single person.
Mm. Be like,
That's
"That's not
just
okay."
that's just the schedule.
Yeah.
And then to bring it back to that analogy of the doctor, man, I done had some stuff that I was really concerned about. You go to your doctor's portal right now and try to schedule an appointment and see how many months from now it's gonna be. And that's my life we talking about. So
Mhm.
they like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, I'll see you in June." Okay, but I feel like my toe not gonna be bleeding in June. It's gonna be finished. Either it's gonna have resolved itself or I'm gonna be gone. But Thank you for, that speedy, so we have to change. We have to change how we look at those
Yes.
things. Like, we don't need to, we don't need to make ourselves that level of available. And the reality is nobody's looking for that.
Right.
That is something that we have created in our mind. Nobody is
Right.
sitting there like, oh my God, I need to talk to you in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Like, nobody. So we just have to release our guilt on that. And I think it's just that kind of like we always have been raised to be overachievers. I've watched
Yep.
it even like if you pay attention in like when I used to work, I'm like, it seemed like, especially as Black women, we always are like, I'll have that back to you in 5 minutes. And our counterparts would be like, well, it's probably going to take me about 2 weeks. What you doing over there? Like, what? And that's how I would think about it at that time. Like, how? Like, this is like you do this, this, and this. Like, how? But we set ourselves up against this unrealistic deadline, and others are giving themselves space.
Right.
And
Right.
we have to give ourselves that same amount of space. Yeah, I could do it in 5 minutes, but you don't need it in 5 minutes. And it's
Yeah.
probably something else I need to be doing.
Parents, I got something for you. I recently, not even recently, a while back, started listening to a podcast called What's Poppin' Penny with my sons Everett and Royce. I love this show. My sons love this show. They have me play it on repeat over and over and over again, and now I want to share it with you. What's Poppin' Penny is a show about Penny, who's a curious Black girl with big emotions. She has a magical teddy bear named TA, and the show is all about how they are navigating life's everyday adventures with joy, wisdom, and a whole lot of love. It's fun, it's heartwarming, and it's packed with lessons and new vocabulary for your little ones. I encourage you to check out What's Poppin' Penny wherever you listen to your podcast. Look, and I really think that this really ties back to racial capitalism because what it is our lineages, our ancestors, our history, what we experience as Black women in particular is that the faster we work, the more that we're able to do, the more income we can bring in
Right.
for our families. That's it. On plantations picking cotton, the more cotton, the safer we are.
Right. Right.
The less likely we're going to be to be lynched, but also the more likely we are to then have to meet tomorrow's quota that beats today's quota.
Correct.
And it is an exercise for me to get out of this frame of mind of there needs to be constant activity. There needs to be constant work. There needs to be quick work. It is all urgent, because it's just not the case. And when I'm in that mode, then I'm not able to focus on balance. I'm focusing on, what I think is survival, but it's not. I don't have to do this to survive right now.
Well, and this is the other side of that. The reality is, although we have been, socialized to that, it's not resulting in greater income, right?
Mhm.
It results in what you said, like safety. Okay, well, that person is high performing, so that person is going to stay in their job. But the person that said that they was going to take 2 weeks is going to get promoted, though.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, we're doing these things, but it's not getting us more. It's getting us less. We're working harder for either the same money or less money. And
Mhm.
so even in business, like when I talk to people about business and how they're creating their business model, like, you know, I work less than a lot of my counterparts, but I make more money
Mhm.
because I hone in on who my client is. I want to, make sure that I am serving that client in excellence, but I am not I'm not the volume person. So if you go to my, if you go to some people's social media, you're going to see, they doing 20 events a week and all. Mm,
Yep.
I'm already prepping myself for this coming couple of weeks because it's going to be much busier than our normal workload. But that's not that's not it in a lot of cases. So a lot of people are, undercharging and over delivering, and that is where that burnout comes from, because now you've set yourself up to be burnt out, like, because there's no way that you can keep that pace. Like you say, you got to meet that quota that you met before, and if you don't, then it's like, oh well, you did that. They got somebody sitting down the hallway and did nothing all year,
Right. Yeah.
and you on me because I didn't produce today what I produced yesterday, and what I produced yesterday was numbers that you go ask anybody else to produce those numbers, right? Like, so we have to undo that, and then that, because I haven't let you off the hook yet on the lunch thing. That is gonna bring us full circle back to, no, I'm serious. And I've been there. So I'm only giving you a hard time because I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, honestly, at some points I didn't eat. Like the
Yeah.
first meal that I would have would be dinner when I
Yeah.
got home. And honestly, the only reason, or the main reason, that I eat now is because my husband works from home a bunch of days. He not gonna skip no meal. So we gonna eat lunch, because he's not gonna skip a meal, right? Um, so it's something I'm still actively working on. Like he's starting to do 2 days a week going into the office. So I gotta make myself eat on, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
it's something that I actively am working on. But what I started doing is when I'm ready to eat, I don't bring it to my desk, even if,
Mhm.
some days I work from the sofa. It just depends on what mood I'm in. But
Mhm.
I close everything when I'm ready to eat. And I actually usually I'll turn the TV on or something like that. And so I'll watch a show. And, if it's a 30-minute show, I'm going to watch two. If it's, an hour long show, watch that hour. But to make sure that I actually just relax my brain for that time, and then jump back in. And I've even, like, I've had, a client reach out or something like that, and I'll be like, "Oh, well, when I get back from lunch, I'm."
Somebody I think my husband was complaining to me about somebody, and I was just chuckling because, I in my so this is what happened. He was in a store somewhere, he needed assistance. The only person that could help him was on their lunch break. But they were, like, there. They were, like, walking by or whatever,
Mhm.
and he had asked that person, and that person was like, "Yes, I'll get it for you when I get back on my lunch break." And whatever he needed was, like, literally gonna take 30 seconds, but she didn't do it. She held strong to her lunch
To
break
her
and was
lunch
like,
break,
"I
she
will."
said, "Look, I'm off these people clock, because 'cause they're not gonna give me the
Mhm.
30 seconds back."
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And I
Yeah.
and I understand, I mean, there, of course, there's exceptions to the rule and all of that stuff like that. But I remember when I was working, I would specifically leave my office whether I wanted to or not and go sit in the lunchroom and eat, so that I would, like, make that disconnect, because y'all owe me this hour, right? And then people come in, oh, hey, what? Like, guess what? When you see me and the hour has passed and I'm still sitting here, it's because you've been talking to me for 20 minutes about something that have nothing. I don't have paper right now. I don't have a computer. I have no clue what you're talking about. I have a sandwich. Like, let me
Mm,
eat this
mm.
sandwich.
Yeah.
But that's how we slowly learn to not care about ourselves and to not do those things for ourselves. And so we have to start unlearning that as well. And for me, like you said about you with the lunch, for me, it was initially when I was still working, I said the first 10 minutes that I come in are uninterrupted. So I would come in, I'm a tea girl. I don't drink coffee. So come in, I make my cup of tea. I would sit down. I wouldn't touch the computer. I wouldn't do anything else. I have my tea. I have a little notebook in front of me, and I would just sit there and drink that tea for that 10 minutes. And by the time that 10 minutes was up, I kind of have a little list of what I want to get into for the day. My mind is clear,
Mm.
and I can just kind of focus and go. But before that, it just seemed like I was just rushing into chaos
Yeah.
and just going and going. And one of the things that we don't realize is that when we're in chaotic state, we make horrible decisions.
Mm.
So whenever I'm like in that state where everything is so busy and moving so fast, I have to remind myself to just stop, just pause, because you start to continue to change. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll look up and you committed to 12 more things. How did that happen? Like what
Yeah.
happened? But you're letting your like stressed brain make life decisions for you. And
Yeah.
that's never good.
Yeah. So I want to move us to um, a toolkit that you had sent to me and that we'll make available to listeners. And I want to cover this quickly before we close out because I find it extremely, you're asking questions that I have not thought about on my calendar, even after these last couple months when I'm all up in my calendar thinking about these things. And so um, you said this 5 steps to detox your calendar. And I just want to talk about the first one because obviously we don't have time to do all of them, but it's assessing your current calendar. It asks, is your calendar a reflection of your priorities? Is there any white space? Do you show up on your calendar? Is self-care prioritized? Is your calendar overwhelming to look at? And then the actual exercise is to take the last 3 months of your calendar, highlight items that are directly related to your goals, put a line through items that you know gotta go. Put a star next to things that bring you joy or fulfillment, and circle the things that you feel obligated to do. And then there's some reflection questions. What strikes me most, I think, about these 4 steps to take with my calendar for the last 3 months is goals and joy or fulfillment. Um, and it's because even now, like when talking to you and thinking about balance, most of it is around, can I just have a quiet time? Can I just have some space? Like I
Yes.
want white in
Yes.
my calendar so that I can just sit.
Yes.
But then adding in that extra layer of what are my goals and where in my calendar, where in the past 3 months have I done the stuff towards my goals and have I given that enough time? If I'm only seeing a couple of circles or stars, it's a problem.
Yes.
I need to realign. And the joy, I don't put stuff in my calendar that bring me joy. Like that's not a calendar item for me. And I love this idea of it being a calendar item. Um well, sometimes like if it's a girls' night and I need to remember to tell my husband, then fine, I'll do that. But like I don't I mm-mm, that's not a thing for me. So, I'm curious, what when you're going through this with people, what is their experience?
I think the biggest experience is just the shock of it all. Like
Mm,
kind of like what you said about realizing that their goals aren't on there,
mm,
that they're not there. Um the joy part. So it is like that's the funniest thing, like we don't plan for joy, right? And I really feel like we need to plan for joy. Life is going to happen on the other side. Like the dark side has no trouble surfacing, right? It
mhm.
is going to happen. Things are going to happen. You know, I don't know where the reset button is on 2025. Do we have the receipt? Can we give it back? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is, we have to seek joy, right? We have to seek joy actively because that's the only way we're going to ensure that we can even maintain, because for our own mental health, right? It's a lot. Um I went through a lot at the end of last year, and then this year just coming in loud and ignorant. And and so what I did for like a 2-week period, I um I was picking 3 things each day that brought me joy.
Mm.
And even in doing this calendar detox and working, there was days I was like, "Oh Lord!" I said I was gonna post these. I got to find a number 3. What was the third thing? So like some days I had to I'm like, "Well, what do I like to do? Let me go do that. Let me go do that." And it doesn't have to be anything huge. It doesn't have to be that you are blocking off 4 hours a day for joy, but go and play fetch. That might be something that brings a moment of joy. Watching a movie with the kids, going, I like bubbles. I'm childish, so I
I
like
love me some
bubbles.
bubbles. Yeah.
So let me sit here and blow some bubbles. That brings joy, but finding ways to bring that into our day, because maybe the job is heavy. Maybe there's a situation going on. Maybe somebody's sick in the family. Whatever it is, that is going to bring heaviness. We have to. I'm always going to find some way to find joy. I'm always going to find a laugh. It may be an inappropriate laugh sometimes. It might be, but I'm going to find some levity in a situation.
Yeah.
And it helps you to be able to manage it a little bit better, because it's just something, again, about that moment of joy. And then also feeling when you're heavy, to
Yeah.
know I need to do something different because I'm not in a good space. But
Yeah.
I think that that's the biggest thing, is one, realizing that we don't make time for joy. And then the other thing is just awareness.
Mm.
Our calendars exist. We are so unaware of what they're comprised of. And
Right.
that I love that part of the exercise, because it brings you that reality where you're like, wait, hold up. like
Mm. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
let me think about this. Like, why am I doing this thing? And then now my favorite is not in here, but it is a part of the program that I run. My favorite is when I make people justify, like, fight for it. If you want to keep it on your calendar, fight for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Wow. Well, this has been a really helpful conversation. Like, I'm literally about to go back to my calendar to be like, okay, these days are full. Like, y'all waiting 2 to 3 weeks at this point. Um, and then I think what I'm gonna do is do at least that first exercise and then share that with listeners so that you guys can see like what my calendar is looking like and that I am going through this process because Lord knows I need to. Folks who are interested in getting this worksheet can reach out to Coach Danni D. You can subscribe to my newsletter, The Validated Voice, and I will be sending that out. Coach Danni D, can you share with us where people can find you and how they can get in touch with you and maybe get some of your other resources or get hooked up with coaching?
Oh, definitely. So on social media, you can go to at your workflow. So my actual company name is Workflow. You can go to at your workflow on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can go to Danielle DeTige on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, which is coachdannid.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I believe I'm joining you on your podcast tomorrow.
Yes, we record tomorrow, so I'm excited. I get to see you 2 days in a row.
Yes, so shout out your podcast so that folks know.
Okay, so my podcast is Profits in Pajamas, and we talk about all things work life balance and getting to a space of joy and fulfillment.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Impostrix Podcast. I hope that you got what you needed. If you're ready for more, feel free to go through the other 3 seasons worth of amazing episodes that we've put together for you. I want to hear from you. I want to know how you related to this episode. So if you're listening on Spotify, feel free to answer the question or send a text. You can do that through your Spotify app. If you're listening elsewhere, make sure that you follow me on Instagram at Impostrix Podcast. And if you like to text, go ahead, go to the show notes, look for the link for the WhatsApp community, because we just got it started this season for season 4, and I love to chat, so hit me up. Also, thank you to Chris at Digital REM for editing this episode. Until next time, be validated.